To Beyond the Cubicle. My name is CM Fort Queens, and I provide practical tips for thriving in remote work, as well as bite sized motivational quotes and spiritually centered shorts that pair peaceful nature scenes with reflections rooted in faith and purpose. Today, I would like to share with you exercise and its benefits, as well as when exercise doesn't help one's health. So, exercise helps to mitigate many of the risks associated with sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, but it doesn't fully eliminate them for most people, especially if the exercise is moderate and the sitting remains prolonged and unbroken. Sedentary behavior, as we know, that is prolonged sitting for a long length of time, especially those of us who work around the desk. We work remotely, and we are sitting around the desk for an 8-hour workday, as well as, say, for example, you may be, for example, retired and you no longer work, but you are at home, you sit around, or you may be lying in bed for long periods of time with low energy expenditure, meaning that you don't move around a lot. This lack of physical activity is related to risk factors for poor health outcomes. Why sitting harms health independently of exercise? Researchers have found that prolonged sitting triggers distinct physiological processes that a single bout of exercise, even if it's a 30 to an hour minute long, doesn't completely reverse the effects of, for example, metabolic slowdown, reduced blood flow and muscle activity, cardiometabolic, and other effects. So what that is saying, that you sit for prolonged periods, for example, a 4 to 8 hour stint without moving in between that time, getting up and then doing even up to an hour walking or jogging, in addition with weightlifting, is not enough to retard or slow the effects of health outcomes, like bad health outcomes such as metabolic slowdown. So you'll find that you are exercising an hour a day, but you are still overweight or obese. So large muscles, especially in the legs and in the glutes, which remain inactive for hours, is not good. This reduces glucose uptakes, impairs fat metabolism, and leads to poorer blood sugar and insulin regulation. These are enzymes involved in breaking down fats and sugars. These become less active with prolonged inactivity. Sitting for long periods of time also causes blood to pool in the lower body. It promotes inflammation and it weakens postural muscles and contributes to tatter hip flexors or hamstrings. This in turn affects your posture, your balance, and everyday movement inefficiency, or if efficiency, I should say. So, along with metabolic effects. Inactivity, sitting or laying around for long periods of time without, intermittent movement and activity. It causes cardiovascular diseases and puts one at risk for type 2 diabetes and certain cancers, as well as obesity markers like elevated BMI and unfavorable cholesterol ratios, and all cause mortality even after adjusting for exercise levels. Yes, so it's important that one moves around, because not doing so and just even doing 30 to 60 minutes a day, it's not going to cut it. It's still going to lead to poor health outcomes and death. So these effects accumulate over the day because sitting dominates, that is 8+ hours of sitting is more than when one moves around. So these effects accumulate over the day because sitting for 8 hours each day dominates, while exercise typically occupies a small fraction of one's waking time. So studies using accelerometers, these are object movement trackers, like for example step trackers, show that high sedentary time still correlates with worse outcomes like heart failure risk, even among those meeting their exercise guidelines. So when one sees where one should exercise at least 30 minutes to an hour each day, you have to take that on a person-to-person basis. So if you are one that has a job that, allows you to move around, for example, you may be a construction worker or a warehouse worker who moves a lot as part of your job, well, a 30 to 60 minute a day workout or exercise guideline would work for you. However, if you are an office worker, a manager, for example, or say a secretary, administrative assistant, or you work from home and your job is one that allows you to sit around a desk for 8 hours, that is not for you. A 60 or 30 minute to a 60-minute exercise guideline is not for you. So other research suggests that 20 to 40 minutes of daily moderate to vigorous activity can substantially lower, or in some cases offset, death risk from sedentary time. However, results vary by outcome. Vigorous exercise, example running and swimming, appears more effective than moderate for some markers like cholesterol in desk workers. In short, exercise is protective and beneficial, but for many office workers doing the standard recommended amounts, it doesn't completely cancel out 8 unbroken hours of sitting. The combination of high sitting plus low to moderate activity is particularly very, very harmful. So what strategies can you utilize to mitigate the harmful effects of sitting for 8 hours? So number one, breaking up sitting appears key, as uninterrupted bouts drive much of the harm. So for example, it is recommended that if you sit for 8 hours each day, that you stand or move briefly every 30 minutes, Even 5 minutes walks or light activity can offset many acute metabolic effects. So, if I should reiterate that if you sit for 8 hours, it's recommended that you walk for 5 minutes or do some activity every 30 minutes. So aim for more total daily movement. Light activity, standing or taking 9,000 to 10,500 steps helps independently. Combined approaches reduce total sitting where possible. You can, for example, have a desk that allows you to stand while working at your computer, or have walking meetings. So, for example, if you have, meetings, a Zoom meeting, that instead of just sitting there and listening, you can walk in place while listening, to the meeting. So, just to conclude, guidelines from associations like the Mayo Clinic and others emphasize sit less, move more, along with structured exercise. So the bottom line is exercise is one of the best things you can do for your health and does blunt many sitting related risks, particularly at higher volumes. However, it doesn't fully mitigate the independent downsides of prolonged, unbroken desk sitting for most people because the body responds differently to frequent, low level movement versus concentrated workouts. The most effective approach is both regular exercise plus reducing and interrupting sitting time throughout the day. If you are desk bound, practical steps like hourly movement breaks, a standing desk converter, or walking during calls can make a meaningful difference alongside your regular or structured workouts. Consult a doctor as always for personalized advice, especially if you have existing health conditions. Okay, so remember, if this was beneficial, please don't forget to like, share, hype, and subscribe. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.